Well, what was that? Iowa finding a way, folks. 91-89, the victory over the Indiana Hoosiers, the Big Ten preseason favorite Indiana Hoosiers. And for those who have been complaining, I've had a number of responses on some of the segments here from the Hawkeye of the Storm last day or two. The poster has come down. It was not my poster, folks. I want to make very clear. There was an Iowa State poster. It was not my poster. This is not my home. All right. Let's just address that now. Poster will be going back up when I'm done here. But anyways, I don't really know what to say. We're going to be joined by Coach Gary Close here in a few minutes. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say as a basketball fan. And for the 127 people who are on this live show who did not give up on this team, whether it be after the Eastern Illinois loss, after the Nebraska loss, after the Penn State loss, or in the first half today. I applaud you. And I can tell you this, regardless how this season plays out, I'm going to be here for every postgame show. All right. And I think Coach Close is going to be here for pretty much every postgame show. So we're here to talk win or lose, but it's a lot better when you win, right? I think we're kind of stating the obvious on that one. And how about this win? Hawkeyes falling down 21 early, struggling to match up in the man-to-man. They go zone the rest of the game. Zone wasn't very good either. And we can talk to Coach Close about that. They pressed the whole game. It bit them at times. It was effective at other times. I think more or less their defense was just bad all night. But the offense finally found some rhythm, some momentum. I still abide by what I've been saying here for the last several weeks. This offense has to run through, regardless of how good Chris Murray is, and he is sensational. This offense has to run through the hands of Philip Rebraca. And you may say, well, he's an undersized 5 in this league. He is. But boy, he's a good one. And he is a tough dude. He is one of the tougher guys that Fran has had here. And it's good because this team has had some gut checks here. I mean, certainly the Eastern Illinois game was a gut check. Losing, getting blown out against Nebraska was a gut check. Making a huge comeback against Penn State and then falling short, that was a gut check. How about the officiating tonight? It was a complete disgrace to the Big Ten Conference. I have no problem saying that. I thought it was a complete and utter disgrace. Courtney Green, Paul Slezak should not be allowed on a college basketball floor. I don't understand how those three got paired together. And Larry Scarato, my friend Tom Kakert calls him Little Larry. Always get a kick when I see Tom's tweets. I don't have anything against Larry Scarato. I don't have anything against any of these guys personally. But all I know is it seems like in games in which, and we're not just talking about Iowa games, I've seen Courtney Green butcher other games. It seems like those two guys, Slezak and, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and Courtney Green have a reputation for botching big calls. And again, I want to get Gary Close's perspective on it. The cylinder, the waving the basket interference off late in that first half, which could have completely determined this game. Let's be honest. You have a poor free throw shooter in Trace Jackson Davis. If he misses it, going to the free throw line for 2 shots, as opposed to going to the line for 1 shot after having the 2 count. I mean, it's a totally different situation. And it was a big point in the game. Iowa had come all the way back, just about all the way back. I think it was, a 5-point game maybe when that happened, somewhere around 5. And it ended up going, I think, back up to 10 at halftime. I give credit to Fran's guys. They kept fighting. Boy, it got tense there at the end, playing the foul game up 3, which I do believe in doing that. But I will say this too. Some of these guys, I'm talking about Iowa free throw shooters, have missed free throws in big moments over the last couple of games. Chris Murray being one, not trying to pick on him. Man, you got to give Peyton Sandfort a lot of credit. Who made the other pair of free throws? Was it Chris or Phillip? One of the two, right? Phillip was out of the game. It wouldn't have been Phillip. But they made some big free throws there at the end when it mattered. And boy, pulled this one out. And this was the kind of game I said I said it at the end of the first half. This became a must win. Like, you can go into this game and say, it's a must win. They're down. They're 0-3 in the conference. Yes, they were 0-3 in the conference. I get this was a home game. But to come back from 21 down and then to take a 4-point lead twice and have that erased twice, it became a must win. You could not afford to make that comeback, deal with what you dealt with officiating wise at home, right? Against a really good, again, the preseason favorites. I'm not saying Indiana's going to win the conference because I don't think they will. But you had to win this game. It became a must win. If you lose this game, you're 0-4. You're kind of right back where you were on Sunday, right? At least Sunday, I know there are no moral victories, but at least after the game on Sunday, you could say, okay, they proved in that second half that they can shoot better than they've been shooting. We all knew they could because they had the first month and a half of the season, but they proved it at Penn State on the road. Now we just got to put it together for 40 minutes. Tonight, they didn't put it together for 40 minutes. The first 10 minutes were absolutely abysmal. But they fought. They clawed. And I don't really know who. I mean, you really pinpoint one or two guys. I mean, certainly Rebraca was really good. Chris Murray was really good. Peyton Sandfort hit some big shots in that first half. He's still struggling with shot selection. I mean, he just jacks up shots. But boy, made some big free throws late, made some big shots in the first when everyone else was ice cold. I have not seen Fran. I mean, I was at the Iowa-Wisconsin game when Fran completely lost his marbles. I haven't seen Fran get the way he got this evening in years, folks. And I mean that seriously. Everybody can joke about Fran nationally. I know he's become a national punchline for some. But Fran has toned it down in recent years, and he completely lost it tonight. Frankly, I don't blame him. Now, in the final minute, I didn't know what was going on because we were all screaming just like everybody else in that arena. But I didn't know what was going on. I saw the technical foul from, I believe it was Courtney Green. I don't know who was assessed the technical. I'm assuming it was a double tech against Wisconsin's bench Indiana's bench and Iowa's bench. I'll say this about Fran. The one criticism I'll say about Fran here, and we can get on to our callers who are already in line waiting. Coach Close, again, will be joining us. If you're just joining us here, we've got over 200 people. Please share the link out. That helps us in the algorithm. And Coach Close, Coach Gary Close, former Iowa coach Gary Close, will be joining us shortly. But I don't know why Fran is crossing half court in that situation. Under a minute to go, you're up 2. You cannot risk a technical. And he already had a T, right? So I don't even know if the technical was assessed to Fran. It probably should have been. It must not have been, right? He would have gotten tossed. But you cannot risk a technical in that situation. You get tossed, you get thrown out. And Indiana was already at the free throw line. Had that been a technical in Iowa exclusively to Iowa, assessed to Iowa, you're talking about a significant swing. Indiana could have taken the lead that possession. Just be happy, folks, that didn't end differently, because I'm not sure why Fran was crossing half court and getting involved with a conversation between an Indiana assistant coach and I believe it was Paul Slezak. I don't know. We'll get back to that. I'm sure we got an hour here to talk, folks. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. You see Iowa Floor Covering up here in this corner, right? Iowa Floor Covering sponsoring the show this evening. Appreciate them down in Bondurant. And of course, Brad Van Meter and his team. Let me go ahead and get rid of the banner briefly. Certainly give Brad and his team consideration, at least to give you a quote on insurance, whether we're talking about auto insurance, certainly renter's insurance. They'll give you a great quote on whatever type of insurance you need. If you're trying to save some money, let Brad save you some money by calling him, 515-256-6480. You can visit him and his team online at www.bradvanmeter.com. And just for the sake of the fact that he's sponsoring this content, and I hope all 206 of you enjoy the content here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, at least give Brad a chance to serve you better, and you're supporting the show when you do so. So thank you to Brad Van Meter and his team for sponsoring Iowa basketball postgame here with Coach Gary Close all season long. Let's get to our first caller of this evening. Let's see. We got to get up to the line here. Ryan, Mr. Ryan, and I can imagine, Ryan, given your reputation, I can imagine you're going to have a thing to say about the officiating. What do you got out of the gates for me, Ryan?
I don't know why you would say that, Corey.
I have no idea why.
Oh, I mean, I got some notes here.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, though, let me just say, Phillip, good God, what a beast. I'm going to miss him. Chris Murray, the kids really fought hard. You know, they played 7-on-5 the entire game. The person who's I really want to say a shout out to is Paul Sells, because I really feel for him. He had two proud, corrupt partners in Paul Sleazebag and corrupt Courtney Green.
Wait a minute.
Sells.
Wait a minute. Paul Sells. Who the heck is Paul Sells?
What was the Sells guy?
Sells. Is there a Sells? Did I get the crew wrong? I thought it was Paul Slezak. Whether I'm pronouncing his name right, I don't know. Courtney Green and Larry Scarrato. Wrong on that?
Well, little Larry. Little Larry.
Larry.
You know, the other two guys were
hold on a second. The little Larry that could.
Yeah, little Larry that could. The little troll. You know, with anyway.
Go ahead.
Anyway, there's one notable name. So our next game is Rutgers, at Rutgers, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh no. Let's not go there yet.
Okay. 1.9 seconds to go.
The Courtney Green fiasco from last year.
And we our star player, and you know, it's thou shalt not call a foul on a star player in the Big Ten. Our star player gets called for a ticky-tack foul 35 feet from the basket with 1.9 seconds to go, and that was corrupt Courtney Green, proud graduate of the Tim Donaghy School of Refereeing.
Yes, it was Courtney Green. And Paul Sleazak, listen, Paul
I miss TV Ted Valentine at this point. That's how bad this guy is.
Ted had his own problems, has his own problems, but and I'm not trying to, again, I want to make clear, I'm not saying anything personally against these guys because I don't know them personally, but all I know is there have been, Paul, Courtney, and Fran have a very strong history, right? And not in a good way. I don't know that Fran has an issue with Larry Scarrato. I mean, everybody pokes fun at Larry. I don't have an issue with Larry. I mean, I'm sure he's made some calls that have been, it just appears to me that the egregious acts of certain officials can be pinpointed to two certain officials in this conference. And their names are not Larry Scarrato. They're not, what's the tall, bald guy who's really good?
He's good.
He's
DJ McCarthy.
Carstensen? Is that
right?
Yeah.
He's very good.
He's really good. But no, I don't know why these three were on a crew tonight. And it's not a surprise that Fran got a tee this evening. Now he was absolutely irate, and it was a lot more than just officiating. But go on, Ryan.
That basket interference call. So obviously it was seen with the naked eye by the one official. He calls it. And how is it that it gets waved off when it? I mean, Benetti and Raftery were just this. In fact, that Raftery said you can't do that. Before the call was reversed. How is that possible? You touch both hands touching the rim, ball goes in, and it's not because he didn't interfere with.
Let me just read everybody the rules. I know people want to talk about the game, but we were going to spend time talking about this rule, and I want to ask Gary Close about the rule. But let me read you the actual rule according to the NCAA rule book, right? Article 2.A. Point 5. So basket interference occurs when a player causes the basket or backboard to vibrate when the ball is on or within the basket or the backboard and or is on or in the cylinder. So I know that's kind of complicated language, but the cylinder is the imaginary cylinder that elevates up above the rim. So there's no question the ball was in the cylinder, right? It was above in the cylinder. It was above the rim in the cylinder. So I guess that's the question. And I suppose the line of reasoning that was used was that he did not cause it to vibrate. Well, a friend I was watching the game with made a good point. How does a 200-pound guy who jumps up and grabs the rim with both hands, how does that not cause the rim to vibrate some?
Actually, you kind of misread that rule, Corey, because you're.
Oh, no, I read it verbatim.
No, well, that's what you think. But what it said is Big Ten rules, exactly what you just said, unless it's Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan State, because those, Juwan Howard might hit you, but the rest of them are too politically corrected. Greg Gard might have a player kick you in the nuts, I mean,
Okay.
Fran has a lot of bark, but not a lot of bite, right?
No, unfortunately, and some people would say it's Fran's own fault, but there's not it doesn't. Some people would say that Fran is respected across, as far as officials in the conference. It does not appear that way to me. I'm sure he's got a good relationship with some of them, but it does appear that he is treated differently than other coaches. And I'm not saying Fran didn't deserve a technical tonight. I'm not saying that. But I've seen Tom Izzo.
When you're a terrible referee, you deserve to get a little heat.
I've just seen Tom Izzo, and I know Mark Turgeon ain't coaching in this conference anymore, but Izzo, Turgeon, I'm trying to think of other examples. Certainly Howard, Gard kind of does his own thing, in a kind of a snakish way. The bottom line is, it appears to me that Fran is treated differently because of his persona. And it's just unfortunate. And I'm just glad Iowa found a way to win this game, because that Rutgers game, you could argue, even though it was close at the end and Rutgers may have won, if that call hadn't happened a year ago. But you very easily could have argued, and many people did last year, that loss on the road in Piscataway was the fault of no player but an official named Courtney Green. And
absolutely.
That I have a problem with, and that's not the only situation.
Exactly.
In Iowa, Green has also been. I mean, last year around the same time, I believe he botched a call. Was it a Northwestern game that he botched a call in? And I don't know why officials aren't held to the same standard that players and coaches are. Why they don't have to talk to the media. As time has gone by, I do wonder, why are these guys not? And why don't they have to face the media?
They never do, and whatever accountability they have is behind closed doors, and I don't know, the same bad refereeing is coming out every year. I mean, granted, you named a couple really good ones. Tracy Jackson Davis, great player, but did you know that he traveled so much tonight he put 100,000 miles on his odometer?
Yeah, there were several travels that were missed. You're right.
I mean,
he got called for a few of them.
I just I can't say enough about how proud I am of the players for sticking with it. 21 down. I think we were all just waiting for this to be kind of a dagger shot on the season. And, without Patrick, they really, really rallied. I'm really, really proud of these kids. I really am. And I couldn't agree with you more, Corey. Fran was out of his mind going across half court and risking it. I mean, I was angry at him in the first half because you just knew this game was going to come down to one possession at the end if you had a chance. I mean, it was either going to be a 10, 12-point Indiana win or a one possession game is how I felt early on. And we were down a good bit, and he got a tee, fine. I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. But to risk that one with under a minute to go, especially with corrupt Courtney on the court.
Ryan, I'm going to take you out of the studio, and then I'm going to bring you right back because we got Gary Close on the line, Ryan. So just, I'm going to bring you right back here a little bit later if you're willing to stick around.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, I believe we have Coach Gary Close on the line. Gary, can you hear me?
Yeah, Corey, I could not get my microphone to work on my phone, so I had to call instead.
You are just fine, and appreciate you calling. And I'm assuming you're safe. I don't know what the celebration was like there at the arena, but quite a finish. Let's talk about this game. Let's start with the start of the game. I mean, obviously Iowa giving up 23 points in the first 5.5 minutes. Just about everything that could have gone wrong early went wrong. This is the third straight game that Iowa has struggled coming out of the gates against a Big Ten team. What went wrong in the first 5 to 10 minutes of this game that dug them such a big hole?
Well, I thought Indiana was a very, very sharp, and they ran their offense very well, got good shots, made them. They were very, very, very sharp and crisp, and kind of got Iowa back on their heels a little bit, and it's a good basketball team. It's 15th ranked team in the country. So they looked really well. Fortunately, Iowa was able to withstand that barrage and get it within shouting distance before halftime. And then, of course, had an amazing second half. So got to give them a lot of credit. That was a hard fought, well earned, terrific win.
We just got done talking with Ryan about the officiating, and I know you're hesitant to call out officials. I understand that officials make mistakes, and for the most part, they're right 75% of the time. What I have a problem with, Gary, is when an official huddles up with another official or two other officials on his crew, and to me makes an egregious missed call, an egregious decision. And I thought that first half decision was. I don't know that I need to read the official rules from the NCAA rule book to you as a former coach, but if a guy is hanging two hands on, and I know he didn't grab it and the whole rim didn't shake, but if a guy is grabbing the rim with two hands when the ball is up above the cylinder and that rim moves at all or the backboard moves at all, that is by definition an offensive basket interference. How can you explain why the officials overturned that call in the first half?
No, I really can't. Obviously we don't have the benefit of the replay at the arena. No, I thought it looked like a blatant offensive rebound, and I guess I have to go back and look at it. It looked pretty obvious to me. So I don't know what happened, to tell you the truth. But it looked like they missed it. I didn't have the benefit of replay at the game, but sure looked like offensive goaltending.
And like I read here a little bit ago, I did read part of the rule, and basically the rule states that if the rim vibrates at all, I guess the language in there that perhaps the officials used to defend that call was the rim was grabbed but not shaken. But again, how does a 200-pound athlete grab the rim with two hands and it not move or shake somewhat? So anyways, can you talk a little bit about the officials in general? I thought it was a very poorly officiated game. Maybe you are going to disagree. You're probably going to disagree with that. Besides just the one call, did you think it was a well officiated game?
Well, like I've said a million times, it's almost something you got to go back and take a look at and really evaluate. It looked like they might have missed some calls. It was a tough game to ref. It was a very physical game, and so I guess I reserve judgment to go back and take a look at the tape and see if they missed them. I'm guessing they did. Fortunately, it wasn't enough to prevent Iowa from winning. And I think probably if you look at it, they probably blew some calls for them as well. But I guess off the top of my head, I didn't think it was a terrifically officiated game. But I've said that before and gone back and watched the tape and said it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was. But at any rate, they got themselves a win, and that's the most important thing.
Okay, so where did this comeback start in your mind, Gary? Obviously, some shots started to fall, and if you're not making shots, I mean, Iowa made some contested, tough shots in that first half. I thought Indiana had better looks the whole game. I give Iowa credit. Chris Murray made tough shots. Peyton made a few in that first half. But Philip Rebrache, I mean, that this offense with it running through Philip Rebrache, I thought he had one of his best performances against maybe the best player at that position in this league, not named maybe Zach Edey. Just your thoughts on Philip Rebrache. Is that where the comeback started for you?
Yeah, I think they got 5 guys in double figures, so they had some guys step up. They got some terrific performance from a lot of guys, and they just played a good, tough, physical game. Just kind of pecked away and got it close. And I thought they ran their offense very well. Got good shots and knocked them down. I mean, the offense always looks better when you make them. They got to the free throw line a lot. I thought they were much more physical and effective around the basket than they've been in the past. And I thought there was less dribbling, more cutting, more, when they did dribble, it was more attacking towards the basket. And so I thought from an offensive standpoint, they showed great improvement after the first few minutes. And I think as the game wore on, they just kept getting better and better in terms of offensive execution. And Indiana's got a history of letting people back into games, and they're a puzzle to me. They're obviously talented. I mean, losing that one player in the first half certainly didn't help them. But they just do some things during games that let people get back in, dumb fouls, turnovers and things like that just make you shake your head at. And against a good team like Iowa playing at home, they had a chance to bury them, and we gave them some life. And to Iowa's credit, they fought hard, and I thought out-toughed Indiana to get a really impressive win.
And if I had told, I would guess, Gary, that if someone had told you prior to the game that Indiana would shoot 54% from the field, 53% from three, and build a 21-point lead in the first half, my guess is that, and Iowa had 12 turnovers. My guess is that you'd say this was a blowout at the end as well.
Yeah, and it was a gutty performance. I mean, the bench was very short. A lot of guys played a lot of minutes, and it was a physical games, and they found a way. So it's a great credit to them. I was very impressed with the effort and just the mental toughness. That's a good basketball team they beat, and they were down big, and found a way. And that's it's been a tough couple weeks for them, and that's a game they could have very easily lost, and they just found a way to win. And that's a sign of some good character.
We do have a couple callers here that want to ask you a couple questions, Gary. We're going to try to keep calls shorter tonight. Gary's on the phone, and I know he's gracious enough to call in from his hotel room. So, and Gary, it is well past your bedtime now, so we want to be considerate
but that's okay.
We want to be considerate to the retired guy. So let's bring in Tony here and get Tony's perspective and see what he has for Coach Close. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you guys doing? I just want to start off with the Hawkeye started with man-to-man. I always love it when
but I don't think they start man-to-man. I think they did.
Yes, they did.
But they started it.
They started it, and then they went to that zone. And
hey, Gary, I don't mean to cut Tony off. I want to give you your time here, Tony. But Gary, since he brought that up, it did appear to me, and this is just obviously there were negatives to take away from today. I mean, overall, you're just unbelievably impressed with this comeback. But my observation, Gary, is I thought Iowa stuck with the press too long. I thought they stuck with the zone too long. My perspective was it seemed like Fran got scared. I shouldn't say scared, but I think he got a little shell-shocked from that start and how bad the man-to-man was early. Is that what you saw, Coach?
Well, I partly, but I also think that he knew that he had a very, very short bench. And he's going to have guys playing 36, 37, 38 minutes. And I think the zone was, two reasons. I think that was one reason. I think the other reason, I think he just, the big fella got so many easy baskets early. Just thought, I can't play him man to man. Let's play zone. Hopefully we can somehow control him. And so it wasn't game one on the defensive end. It was a game one with guts and determination and some great offensive play, and you got to find a way to win. So they're shorthanded, and but I think the defensive call was a lot to do with the short bench. The pressure did cause some problems at times. I thought at times they were a little slow getting out of it and back into their half court and gave up some easy baskets. But I think he felt that being down that big, that he had to get some extra possessions, and I think especially in the first half he did get some, and so it helped him get back into the game and got it within shouting distance.
I wasn't going to bring this up, Gary, but before I do officially give Tony the floor for a minute here, Lewanski brought it up, so I have to ask, who was right about attendance tonight, Gary?
Well, it was interesting. It was a terrific crowd. I think if you did paid attendance, we probably would have won the bet. Actual attendance, you probably win.
Okay.
Because the student section was not well represented, but the other parts of the arena were pretty full all the way up to the top, and the crowd was terrific. So it was a good home court advantage. But I think actual attendance was probably around 11.
Okay. Because Brandon says that Coach Close owes Corey dinner, but anyways, we'll just excuse
I
that.
I think he's probably right. So we'll get a nice sandwich at Panera Bread.
Okay, give me a sandwich. All right, Tony, what you got for Coach Close?
I don't know if I goaded him into that bet because I was also on that same train saying, Corey, I think I threw out the number 13-5, and I'm looking at the official box score and it says 11-9-16. So I even told you on Twitter, Corey, I'll eat my crow that the attendance bet was lost because you posted that picture.
Well, I did ask. I reached out to the university at 4:00, and they said there were 2,000 tickets available. And I thought, if they're saying there's 2,000 available, boy, they're going to struggle to get. They're going to struggle to even get close to being sold out by game time. I'm not going to spend. I spent plenty of time complaining about attendance and students. We can go on to something else, Tony.
The other thing I was going to say is 1 down, 4 to go with my 5-0 victory. With my 5-0 prediction. So I lost the attendance one, but I'm still alive with my 5-0 prediction.
There you go.
There you
took
go.
the roundabout way.
I rarely like to harp on the officials, and I'm not harping on them here, but Sells was the one who was also involved in that game where in 19 where Fran called the referees some choice names and chased them off the court.
Okay, but Sells was not there tonight, correct?
Yes, he was. It's the same guy.
Okay. Well,
I'm looking at Ken Palm's box score and the official box score. Paul Slezak, sorry, whatever it is. It's that same. I butchered the guy's name just like you did, but it's the same guy that was at Ohio State, I believe.
Okay,
yeah, Slezak.
Tom Kakert tweeted out Larry Scarrato, Courtney Green, Paul Slezak. So
yep, and Slezak was the same guy. I just butchered the guy's name. It was Paul Slezak is the same guy who was at Ohio State in 19 when we got blown out by 20 and Fran chased the refs off the court.
So you're saying there was a fourth official tonight?
No, there's only 3. It was Slezak, Scarrato, and Courtney Green.
Okay, you just said Sells.
I screwed it up. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
That's right. That's what I was saying. My fault.
You're absolutely right. That's what I say. Yeah. Fran's got a history with Green and Slezak. I mean, he's got a history with those two guys. So that's all my,
But I don't want to dwell on that.
Yes.
I appreciated it was like with 2 or 3 minutes to go, Peyton Sanford committed a foul when there was a 3-on-2 situation and we only had 5 fouls. It almost looked like it was going to be a sure basket for Indiana. And I thought that was just a great basketball IQ play on him because Indiana beat the press and he was right at the free throw line and committed that foul where he wasn't in shooting motion. And then they had to inbound the ball instead of having a 3-on-2. Did we lose Coach Close? Or?
No, we got him. We're still here.
Okay, sorry. And then this is, I believe, is our second quad one win. I think Iowa State, it looks like, is going to stay in quad one, and I think this one's going to stay in quad one too. Both of them look pretty comfortably in quad one.
Gary, does this I mean, we're talking quad one wins now. I mean, this team is still just 1-3. How does the result this evening change your perspective moving forward? Because I think it completely changes mine. The difference between coming back again, like they did on Sunday, and falling short, falling to 0-4, only this time it was at home, to me, it's just a complete 180. And now they still got to utilize this momentum and seize it, but just the difference between coming back and falling short, the impact that this win could have.
Well, it's a huge win. You know, you don't want to get into as long a winning streak as possible. And they face a tough game coming up this weekend at Rutgers. They're as hot as anybody in the league right now. They're playing really good basketball. So, you know, to beat a ranked team, you're down a starter, and you're down 21, and you've had a rough go these last couple of weeks. It's to find a way to win is impressive. So. It's early. I mean, I think it's all about now is just, you know, it sounds cliche, but, you know, just keep getting better and better and take it one game at a time. And then at the end, you see where you're at. But this certainly helps, you know, from a resume standpoint, so to speak, but even more so just from a mental standpoint, that it's great to get a win and especially the way they did it.
So I don't know if this is legit, so I'm going to repeat it because it's in the chat, and I haven't listened to post-game press conferences, but Chris in our chat is quoting, this could be totally wrong. Chris in our chat says, Fran coming, this is apparently a quote from Mike Woodson. Maybe you can confirm this, Tony, or someone can look this up while we're on the air. He says that Mike Woodson says in the post-game show, or post-game press conference, Fran coming across the court was BS, and he should have been thrown out of the game, end quote. Now, I don't know if that quote's accurate. Again, we'll try to confirm this, but your thoughts on that comment, if that is accurate, Gary?
You know, they've never really adjudicated guys in the box. I mean, they put that line down there, and nobody pays attention to it. So I don't know. I guess when you lose a game like that, that's you know, you're looking for straws. I think he better be better off, you know, worrying about his defense and worrying about his dumb fouls and worrying about some other things. I mean, that's the game they should not have lost. And they've got a history of doing that. That's a talented team, but they find ways to lose games that they have no business losing. And so I'd look more in the mirror than down the other end of the court.
I do want to add on to that. Like, you know, what happened there is it seemed like Fran was irate because it was an assistant coach. Like, it seems like the coaches kind of get, and I don't know if that's unwritten or whatever, but coaches get a little more freedom to actually talk to the referees, where that was an assistant coach who was getting in the referee's face. And it seemed like Fran came down there to be like, well, what are you guys talking about? Why is this assistant coach able to come out on the court? Because I believe that was when Phillip fouled out, and you get the free timeout or whatever you want to say, you know, because you get the 60 seconds to decide who you want to put in. And that was when their assistant coach was on the court talking to an official, and then Fran came down and was like, well, what's going on here?
Yeah, I will say this, Gary, and then I'll get your comment, Gary. I from the other perspective, yeah, Woodson's got to manage his own team and figure out why they lost a 21-point lead against a team that was on a 4-game losing streak. Or whatever it is, 3-game losing streak. But with that being said, Gary, I'm going to be critical of Fran here for a second. That is, to me, a dumb decision to jump half court like that. Your team's up 2, Indiana's at the free throw line, to go do that when you've already got 1 tee, to risk not only getting thrown out of the game, but to risk giving Indiana free points, Gary. Can we agree that is Fran's got to be better than that, or his assistant coaches have to do a better job of pulling him back?
Yeah, it was a crazy situation. So you got to be careful. There's no doubt about that. Fortunately, nothing came of it. But it's a rule that unfortunately they do not they don't enforce. And so, I mean, you watch games, coaches are past midcourt all the time. So you just got to hope you don't get nabbed with one, like you said, at a bad time, which fortunately that didn't happen.
Tony, I got a bunch of people.
Can I just have one real quick?
Go ahead.
The
Yep.
one real quick one I want to say is with the Rutgers game coming up, they've had an exhausting week with that Purdue. They almost had a similar setup to when we played Duke, Iowa State, and then Wisconsin. I kind of feel a little better about this game, because that's a mentally exhausting game, beating Ohio State how they did. Coast victory tonight, and then they play us on Sunday. But I'll listen, and thank you. I appreciate you letting me have the time.
Thank you, Tony.
See you, Tony.
Okay, so before we get to our next caller, and we've got people in the chat, if you got a question for Coach Close, please either call in by means of the StreamYard link. I'm going to throw it up here in the live chat because Coach Close is on the phone, so we can't be taking. We've just got the one line, so we can't take phone call questions right now with Coach Close on the phone. So please join by StreamYard or throw up your question in the chat. I think it would be unfair if we didn't address this question before moving on to more on this game here, Gary. Patrick McCaffery came out earlier this week and announced that he'd be taking an indefinite leave of absence from the team. He said it might be 2 games, might be 4 games, might be more. And he cited anxiety for his reason of taking this leave of absence. And of course, he's had a lot of support. Now, there's always going to be the trolls on social media that don't respect a young man for making a brave decision to come forward, a guy who's in the public eye. And I understand a lot of people deal with anxiety and depression, and there's no question about it. But I think that's why him going forward was so important and why it's going to make an impact on others. Can you just speak to his decision to do that? And you've been coaching, you've coached these young men. How hard is that to go forward with something like that publicly?
Oh, it's incredibly hard. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of things in his life, and this is just another one. And it's not anything to mess with. Your mental health, your well-being is the most important thing. And I mean, my goodness, what we saw with that football game on Monday. I mean, this is an important game, but it's a game, and so I admire him. I think he wants to get himself straightened out and obviously wants to play better, and just didn't feel he could give what he had to give in the condition he was in. So, and he's obviously, and I guess he's had problems with that before. So it's a very serious national problem. And I think you got to admire somebody in a public eye like that coming out and being straightforward with what he's going through. And we can only hope that, through time, he's going to feel better and get back out there. But, you just wish him nothing but the best. That's not anything to mess with. That's a tough deal.
And there's no question Patrick had not been playing well. I'm not saying that was all exclusive to the issues that he's dealing with, the personal issues that he's dealing with. But you could tell, Gary, we've talked about it, that he's been ineffective. And there was something.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, and I even saw a shot of him at the last game on the bench where he just looked out of it. Physically exhausted, and this game's hard enough to play when you're 100%, especially in this league, and to do it when you're not. And in reading some of the comments that he made, by the time the game rolled around, he had nothing left with all that he was dealing with. So it's very easy to sit back and not appreciate or say things. Well, he's a great athlete, and he's got all these things, and hey, they're just like everybody else, and they go through struggles. And when they do, you got to support them. So I applaud what he's doing, and hopefully, hopefully he'll be able to get back and play soon. But the most important thing is for him to feel good about himself and what he's going through, and that's the only way he's going to play well. So hopefully that'll happen, in due time.
And one final comment about the officials tonight, Gary, because I'm glad that Sharon brings it up in the chat, because I was going to say something to you. That call on Philip Rebrache, I think it was his 5th foul. That was one of the worst calls I think I've ever seen in my life. And you'll see it on replay. To make that call, especially on a guy, and I understand that officials in the moment, it's harder to make a call than when you huddle up and decide to overturn a call. I think there's less forgiveness for a situation like that. But that call on Philip Rebrache was absolutely egregious. And you got to understand, if you're an official too, I think, it's a final minute or two of a game. Philip Rebrache has got 4 fouls. Don't call a phantom foul on him in that situation. Bad call.
I didn't see it. It was them at the other end. Would they get him with an arm in the back or something?
I don't know if they got him with arm or back, or if they said he hooked him. I don't know what the call was. It didn't appear to me that he touched him at all. I mean, it just looked like he was moving his feet, and it was good defense. Certainly wasn't a foul. I mean, I thought it was good post defense. So
yeah.
It's just frustrating, Gary, because this team struggles to play good defense in general without fouling. And so when you do see them defend well without fouling and you get called for a foul, and I'm sure that's kind of why Fran understands the team's liability on that end. And like I said, I haven't seen Fran. I mean, he lost it against Wisconsin, but that first half, I've not seen him get that way in a long, long time. And part of it was to his guys. That first time out, I have not seen Fran rant like that in his guys' faces for a long time, but it did seem to work, Gary.
Yeah, you can't fault the result. It was a big game. They haven't faced a whole lot of adversity in a while, other than up in these last 2 or 3 weeks. Last year was pretty smooth, and even the year before. So these losses, they build on you, and you're looking what's coming down the pike, and now all of a sudden you're down 21-7, or 28-7, and holy cow! So the kids deserve a lot of credit. I mean, that's a monumental comeback against a real good team, and when it didn't look very good at either end of the court. So it'll be one of the best wins of the year.
And I'm guessing, Gary, you don't have the box score in front of you. You want to guess at how many guys Iowa had in double figures?
I'm going to guess 5.
Yep, you'd be right. Chris Murray with 30 and 10, Rebraca with 19 and 10, Tony Perkins with 10, Connor McCaffery with 16, and Peyton Sandfort with 11.
And Dix is in the game at the end.
Yes,
he's going to get more minutes. He's when you're playing at the end, you've got the coach's confidence, and I'm glad. I think that kid's got a chance. Hit a big 3, and he did not look like he was intimidated in the moment, and that's good because we need more depth.
And let's be honest, Gary, I almost called you Don. Let's be honest that that's that 3. I mean, I don't know what point that 3 that was late in the second half that 3 from Dix came, and that's a tough shot in a big moment. I mean, it was a decent look, but he rose up and hit it. And let's not forget too that he's coming off. He dinged up. I don't know if it was the same leg he broke in high school, but he had a scary little injury against Penn State on Sunday. I didn't know if he'd play tonight.
And the interesting thing is, Fran was taking all 3 of those guys out, and he had them going to the table, and then Dix hit that 3, and he had Sandfort come back and kept him in him, and he never went out of the game from that time on, I don't believe. And that's good coaching. He saw that kid step up and said, "Hey, I'm going to give him a few more minutes," and he rewarded him. So that's a significant happening because the team needs more depth. And I'm not going to say he's also going to be some double figure scorer, but he could be a weapon. And it's still a long year to go. So we're trying to develop the team. And I thought having him play as much as he played, especially down the stretch in a game like that, was significant.
What did you think? I mean, we touched on it earlier, Gary, and you mentioned how Indiana got some easy buckets out of it. But what did you think of the press?
Well, I think the press was okay. I think the big problem they had is they have a tendency that once the ball gets across half court, that they're slow getting back and getting their defense established. They stay too extended at times, too long, and that's where they give up some easy baskets. So I bet you if you charted it, it probably broke even. They did get, they got a 10-second call. They got a couple turnovers. They got a couple bad shots that Indiana missed. You're kind of hoping they're going to shoot the ball and not get the ball into Davis. And so I think that it happened at times. And I think it did speed the game up a little bit. They gave them more possessions to try to fight their way back from a 21-point deficit. But it also had its moments where it wasn't effective. But when you're down 28-7, you got to try something. And I think that and a combination of the zone at least didn't wear them out, and gave them a chance to get back into it.
A reminder to everybody, if you're just logging on here, we've got Coach Gary Close on the phone line here for a few minutes longer. If you want to talk with him, we're trying to keep calls somewhat brief this evening. Definitely call in, but do so by means of the StreamYard link because Coach Close is on the phone. I'm going to throw the StreamYard link up in the live chat again. Let's get to James, who's been on hold. James, welcome back to the show.
Good. How you doing?
Doing good, James. How are you?
Hi, James.
So, I was rewatching the game a little bit, like at the end, because I was kind of curious about some stuff. First off, the reason some people are saying calling Susak sells is because on the whole situation, watching the Fran situation going across half court, and when he went to the table, to talk about it, they called him Paul Sells, like the announcers did.
Gotcha.
So that might be why they were saying that. But first off, he did say no a technical on that.
Yes, he did.
Like I can watch it. He did say no technical on that. But then when I go back and watch it again, they said that there was nothing, just a common foul. So they must have just rescinded the technicals and not called anything.
So who was the technical? Did you catch that, Gary? Who was the initial technical called on there at the end?
I don't know. I did not. It was a mass confusion. I didn't see it. I'm on the other side of the court.
So Isaac pointed to the assistant at Indiana. I didn't see him point to Fran. I was watching the thing. I didn't see him point to Fran. But then when he went back and talked to them, I watched the ref said that when they came over to the table, they just said common foul. So there must have been no technical at all.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll have to watch that back. As Gary said, it's just a wild series of events. And, again, my first thought is, you've already got a T-Fran. You can't get tossed at this point. And just score-wise, I will say this, as it relates to the score, the resilience of this team this evening, Gary, not just falling down by 21, but twice in this game, they were up by 4, and Indiana erases the lead. And at some point, you almost feel like, boy, Iowa's just going to fold. How much more do they have in the gas tank, so to speak? And anybody who wants to be critical of Fran and his squad for not playing defense, and their defense wasn't very good this evening, I don't think. You can't question the resilience of Fran's team.
No, not at all. No, they fought right to the end. I was afraid they were going to run out of gas because they did not. I mean, you get the official box score. I bet they had. I bet Connor and Chris probably played 36, 37 minutes.
Chris Murray didn't come out in the second half. I watched the whole second half again. He didn't come out.
Hold on a second. He didn't come out in the game. He
might have played 40.
I'm looking at the official box score, Gary. He's got 40. Chris Murray logged 40 minutes. Philip Rebracha logged 38. Connor logs 36. And Tony logs 30.
Yeah. So those three basically did not come out of the game, and I was afraid that. And I think that's why they played a lot of zone. I think they just try to save their legs, and they found a way. And it's impressive because I was afraid they were going to run out of gas. That was a physical game, in addition to playing all those minutes. So,
what do you think about them starting the second half with Sanford instead of Eagles? I mean, I agree with them, but what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I think the way Sanford played in the first half, hitting a couple of shots, and the way Eulis finished it with that last possession, I think he felt like he had to make that move. He's struggling. I mean, they're both struggling, but Sanford showed some life, and I think that's why he went with him. And then,
yeah,
and Dixon played instead of Perkins at the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Ran out of gas. Yeah, you're bringing that ball up the court the whole time. I mean, that where in fact Connor had to bring the ball up a lot just to give him a break. I think that makes the win all that more impressive with the amount of minutes some of those guys like. I'm guessing tomorrow's practice will not be too strenuous as they get ready to play on Sunday.
One thing I watched too.
Real quick, James, I just want to say, because there's a comment here that goes along with what you just said, Coach Close, and you mentioned Dix, and you've said it a couple times, but Joe asks specifically, what are your thoughts on Tony sitting and Josh Dix playing a lot at the end? But it seems like you're just really impressed with what Josh Dix is giving in limited minutes right now.
I thought the kid looked really comfortable, and he hit a big three. And I thought Tony was up and down. Tony made some good plays, and then he made some just mind-boggling plays that I think Fran got a little nervous about, and I think that's why he went with Dix and had Connor handle the ball. I think he just felt that was his best ball handling lineup, and I think he probably was right about that. I think hey, they won, so I think that was probably a good call. I mean, Tony had his moments, but he also had some really bad turnovers and some questionable shots around the basket. But I thought he played better, and he showed signs, and we obviously need him. But I thought it was real significant, as I said, that Dix was in there again, and I think he probably deserved to be.
Speaking of questionable shots, so I guess I was watching some of the game back, and Peyton played great, well, not great, but better than he has, way better than he has.
Mm-hmm.
But I was rewatching it, and at 107 mark, he had the one where he drove in the paint, and instead of kicking it back out, he faded away and shot a fadeaway mid-range with a dude right in his face. And I was like, why would you shoot that up too? That's not a smart shot.
Because his shot, say what you want, Gary, you've said this first. Peyton's shot selection is just bad.
Yeah, I was just confused at that point. I'm like, there's 107 left. You got to understand time. Or you got to understand scoring time.
He did that on James. Hold on, he did that on a three earlier in the game where he short-armed a three. Gary, I mean, it seems to me that Peyton, the moment you think he's going to snap out of a slump because he makes a couple of shots, he seems to revert back to bad shots, which gets him right back in the same slump he was in prior. Am I reading too much into that?
No, I don't think so. I think if you look at his shots, the one he made and the one he missed, the decision to shoot the ones he made were good, and the ones that he missed probably weren't, or at least they were much more difficult. And we've talked about that. I mean, I can even remember coaching. You look at a guy and he's shooting 4 for 16, and you go back and look at the type of shots he took, and say, wait a second, your shot selection is bad. And if you're shooting at 3 feet behind the 3-point line like a guy had a hand in your face, that's not a high percentage shot. And the shot that Tony's talking about, where that spinning turnaround fall away shot, I'll give you that shot at any time you want. I'll take those odds because it's just not a high percentage shot. So hopefully, as he gets older, and we're only talking, what are they, 12 games or so into his sophomore year. Hopefully, as he matures and develops, that will be part of his game. And I think if it does, I think his percentages will go up.
Yeah, no, my point was more time than you got to understand the time. I
agree.
The game, it's 107. You don't shoot that shot with 107 left. You kick it back out and just run the clock out again and try to find something better.
Right. No, I agree.
And then
shoot that shot ever. I mean,
ever, for
shot.
sure, ever, but
but at that time was made it even worse.
Yeah, but and then one thing too is I said, fighting back from 21 and winning feels a lot better than obviously fighting back from 21 or whatever it was against Penn State and coming up just short. You'd rather have the win. But I think the most impressive thing was the counter punches. What I mean by that is they would hit a three or make it a tie game, or make it like a 1-point game, and then we come back and hit another shot or hit the free throws we need, because we struggle with a lot of free throws late in games. But we did what we needed to do to answer them, and I think that's a little bit bigger going into Rutgers. Obviously, Rutgers is a tough place to play. As we all know, the RAC is very tough to play, but hopefully that gives us a little bit more motivation.
And that's a weird game, Gary. And then I'll give you one final comment if you have one, James. But Gary, he brought up the RAC. Can you just give me an idea? That's an 11 a.m. Central Time tip-off. What would a travel schedule look like for that game?
Well, from what I understand, they're going tomorrow, and I think the reason why they're leaving tomorrow a day earlier than normal, one is, of course, there's not any school to miss any classes, but also because of that early start, and I think it's smart. So I think they're practicing here tomorrow, and then I'm guessing it's not going to be much. Probably put in the scouting report, and review this game, and then get on the plane and get there. And then they've got another day to, get rest and then have a good practice there. And with that early start the next morning, I think it's a good move. So hopefully that will give them the best chance of recovering. I think that's the biggest thing you worry about, is being able to recover with all those minutes those guys played, to turn around and play, on the road in an early morning game is not going to be easy against a team that's playing well. I really like the way Rutgers is playing right now. They've got their hands full with that team.
Absolutely. Just coming off that win against Purdue, and Purdue with a real impressive win tonight against Ohio State. James, final call for you.
Yeah. What do you guys think about, like, what do you think they do with the starting line? Do you think they go with Peyton? You think they go? I'm just interested because they put Peyton in the second half. And one more thing too. What do you think about Mulvey playing a little bit?
Okay, James, I'm gonna let you slide, and we'll try to answer both those questions. Coach,
Yeah,
great question from James.
I think there's a chance that Peyton could start, although I think they like him coming off the bench. He did hit some big shots in the first half when Iowa was on the ropes that kept it getting worse and got them, back into the game, so to speak. So, I think he likes the idea of having something coming off the bench. But it wouldn't totally surprise me if he starts. But if I had to bet, I think they'll probably stay with the same lineup just because they won. But he's gonna play a lot, and I think Dix will play more. That's my guess from what we saw tonight.
And again, Gary, I'll say the same thing I said the other night. Maybe you're going to disagree. I'm taking DeSante over Ulis. Based on what I saw, I think DeSante attacks the rim better than Aaron. I think DeSante dribbles with a purpose. And for those two reasons, I think I'd give the nod to DeSante for more playing time. Now, I don't think necessarily that's going to happen, but that would be how I would handle it.
Well, if you get a chance to coach your team, then you can get him in there.
What did you think of DeSante tonight?
I think it's okay. Yeah, I think he's got a chance. I think they're very, very similar players. Both struggle from the perimeter. Both got pretty good quickness. I don't think there's a huge difference. I think people talk about him being younger, and then maybe you go with that. It's a juggling act, because I think Ulis can play better than he's playing. I think he has played better than he's playing. And I think Fran's hoping that's going to happen. But it's, how long do you wait for that to happen? It's tough. I mean, and then you want to try to, give your team the best chance to win. So I think the biggest significant change is I think Dix is going to get more minutes. That would be my guess, just on how he played today. Now, looking at Rutgers and the way they play, then, maybe smaller, quicker guards are better. I don't know. I have to think about it, but they're close. They're close. And I think you'll see that volleying back and forth until somebody takes control, which may or may not happen.
Well, I can tell you this. They've got one of the best defenders in McConnell, correct? He's still...
Absolutely.
He's still on that team. And, of course, Mulcahy, is he healthy? I'm assuming he is.
Their guards are good. Yep. No, their guards are good. Yep.
And
it's a good team.
They just play, under Peichel, they just play a physical brand of basketball. Iowa's going to need Phillip and Tony at full strength. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Gary. Don't work these guys. Don't work the guys you don't have to work.
No, you can't. You're not going to be able to.
It's just too physical of a game coming up on Sunday, and you've got all that travel. And with this game, I'm glad this game didn't go into overtime. That'd have been the only worst case scenario.
Oh boy, yeah, we did not need that game to go into overtime.
Very easily could.
That would not have been good.
Gary,
whether when we were down 28-7, you probably would have hoped to have gone into overtime. But when we got close to overtime, we did not want it to happen.
Absolutely, Gary. This was the third largest comeback in school history. So.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quite a stat there per the university. Gary Close, appreciate you being here as always, and
you bet.
We'll talk on Sunday. Don't know if we'll have a show right after the game Sunday. We'll figure something out. We'll definitely have some post-game coverage.
Okay.
Appreciate you tuning in and being a part of this, and we'll hope for another win on Sunday.
That would be great. It feels a lot better with a W than an L, that's for sure. So hats off to the team and the coach. They did a great job.
Thank you, Coach, and travel safe back home.
You bet. See you, Corey.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, I'm going to be with you for 10 minutes or so. I want to give people an opportunity by means of the phone lines. The phone line is open, 515-635-1601. It's on the bottom ticker there, right there at the bottom, 515-635-1601. And we can, if I missed your chat earlier, please throw it back up there. Again, I'm trying to weigh the chat, and Breehawk 65, our coaches should listen to you. No, I not implying that, Breehawk, but I just think, again, like I said to Coach Close, I think when you watch Ulis and Desante Bowen, I agree with Gary. Those two guys are very similar in how they play. It just seems to me, and Aaron's cleaned some things up here recently, which is good for him. But to me, Desante dribbles with a purpose, and I think at times Aaron dribbles without a purpose. Let's get to our next phone call, I should say, here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame. Who's on the line?
Good evening, Corey Lewanski.
How are you, Lewanski?
I'm good. I had to work, so I had to listen to the broadcast coming home, and just very interesting to listen to the Indiana broadcast of the game.
Okay.
And you learn a few things about your own team. They were a little bit critical of their team in the second half, trying to chase Murray around and play him as good as he did in the first half, and that's awful great compliment to Murray's in shape, athleticism, and I'm not, they're about as biased as any team we play. I get a little sick of the Indiana entire history and Bobby Knight.
Is there any Big Ten school you're not sick of, Lewanski?
Well, I admire Michigan State's performance throughout the years, and I can go way back to their program.
Okay.
I
don't admire Tom Izzo. I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't admire Tom Izzo. I respect Tom Izzo. I don't admire him.
Well, those are two different adjectives. But the program is a winner. It's like, do you love Ohio State's football program? But they keep bringing it. I mean, they got one of the most goofiest coaches in history. Mark Rogers wouldn't like me to say that, but the guy that coached the Jaguars is a goofball. But he's one of the most winningest coaches in CFB history. It's kind of like Bobby Knight. I'm not going to give my impression of Bobby Knight because he's so complicated, but if you criticize him, he won a lot of ball games. He has his fans. I think he's a jerk.
Yeah.
But there's something about Indiana that just, so I'm glad we beat him. That just makes my night. I think watching the chat and you, Corey, we're all trying to pick up the lineup, what's our combination? How are we going to do it? And I just find it so interesting. And I guarantee you that Fran is like messing with a combination to a safe. This is probably one of his toughest years to find out the chemistry. Plus, we have so many young players trying to do it. I think Connor McCaffery has the ability to step up and go at it. And I'm going to defend the Irish blood that I have. I have very little Irish. And like my dad told me one day, I was in farm and banking most of my career, but my dad told me one day, he said, I really like your personality better than your older brother. I said, thanks, Dad. He said, but when you blow, the guys in the white coats will come in and cart you away, and that's your Irish blood. So sometimes you have to take your coach, your head coach, Mr. McCaffery, and you got to take the good with the bad. And he is authentic. He is who he is. And I don't mind if he gets teed up. I think you just have to kind of, you gotta just, as long as you have somebody that's authentic, I'm pretty happy looking across the country. And you made good points, Corey. I'm not saying you're wrong. That was a very risky deal. It could have cost him the game, but sometimes you got to say, kind of like your kids or your relatives, he's a nut, but he's my nut.
You're right, and I'm a Fran guy. I like Fran, but I just, like you said, at the end there, to watch him go across the court like that, to me it was Had that come back to bite them, had they lost the game in large part because of that, bad
Hey,
vibes,
Corey.
but they didn't.
Hey, Corey, I can get teed up. I think you saw my comment about you and me getting teed up coaching a game.
Yeah.
I think you're very competitive.
I think I was a lot more competitive when I was younger, but
okay.
yes,
Now just imagine, Corey, if we could play basketball and be called white magic when we played college basketball in Pennsylvania, like Fran. He can't turn that off. He's, if the burner gets lit, get out of the first row because things going to be flying.
I understand. No, you're right, and I do think that's the blessing and the curse of Coach Fran McCaffery. I think you hit the nail on the head.
But we're trying to find the combination of the players, and I kind of agree with you about Bowen. The football analogy is play the younger guy, and let's, what's the upside? I think it's huge with some of the younger players, Dix. As much as we're going to lose away games in the Big Ten this year, I think the Hawk fans should be pretty excited about watching these younger guys. What do you want to say? Try to see how far they can come. And I tell you what, I just love Connor McCaffery and Phillip. I like to be in bar fights with those two guys. If I got a bar fight, I pick those two guys. No, you can get in trouble on the basketball court, but in the Big Ten Conference, that's what made those Big Ten teams great, including the Michigan State big guy that plays for the there's one NBA championships. We didn't like him because he wasn't on our team, but I can't remember his name. But that's why they won. Mateen Cleaves, remember him? He was like a running back and tough. And we didn't like him when he played against us, but I'm so proud of Phillip and so proud of Connor because they're carrying a lot of the load and probably don't give Murray enough credit. We just take that. We're spoiled. But I'll get off the line and let you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Lewanski. Appreciate the call as always. Yeah, great points. And as Tony says, and Lewanski, yes, Fran's trying to find the right lineup. This is weird. And I don't believe Ogundele is available. I didn't see a tweet pre-game, but I'm guessing Ogundele is not available. Was he there? I didn't even see him there. Maybe he was there. I give credit to Riley Mulvey. Came in, gave him something. He's still got a long ways to go, but it was good to see him get some time this evening. And boy, and this would be quite a coaching job if Fran could, I did the same thing in 2020 when Iowa football was 0-2, right? It was an 8-game season. Iowa football goes 0-2, and they have a lawsuit that had just been announced 2 weeks prior to the Northwestern loss. Things looked bad for Coach Ferentz and that football staff. They reel off 6 straight wins, ride that momentum into 2020-21, have a terrible defense, but find a way to 10 wins. And same with this year. I mean, to a lesser degree, 8 wins, get a bowl victory, despite an absolutely atrocious offense. People want to give the head coach credit for that, and you have to, right? If Fran finds a way back from 0-3 in the Big Ten, all right, and, whether you want to blame him for the lack of development at the 5, that's you're welcome to do that. They've dealt with injuries. They've got the Patrick McCaffery situation, which is no fault of anyone. But that's adversity. And if Fran turns this thing into an NCAA tournament season, I know it's a long ways off, right? But if he were to do that, Fran absolutely should be considered for Coach of the Year in this conference. Long ways off, but I give the guys their due. And I think Lewanski makes a good point. There has been a lot of adversity, whether we're talking injuries to guys like Tony, Chris, etc., Ulis, and now you get the Patrick situation, etc. So impressed tonight. 1 win. Let's hope this continues on Sunday. Let's get to our next caller. Tom, welcome to the show, sir. Tom, you're muted. Try again. Let's get you unmuted. There we go.
Sorry, Corey, this is the first time.
You're good. Appreciate you calling in, sir.
All right. Corey, I've been wanting to call for a while, but you're so high on this team ever since back in December. Yeah.
I'm high on this team?
You were high on this team. And you criticize the Iowa football team horribly, but you'll stick up for Fran like you won't believe.
Listen, I've heard people say this before. I have been more than critical of Fran and the defense. All right. And you heard me earlier tonight.
You know where it's ranked right now, the defense?
In KenPom?
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether it was KenPom. I seen they were ranked 111th in the nation.
Yeah, it's not good. No, it's not good. But
No.
Tom, let's acknowledge something, that over the last couple of seasons, that number has been trending in the right direction. And if we're and I understand that comparing Kirk's football team in that situation is not the same as looking at Fran's situation with basketball. But I understand the parallels between football struggles on offense, basketball struggles on defense. My issue is Fran, the last couple seasons, the defense has been trending in the right direction. Kirk's offense has not been trending in any positive direction. It's been trending in the wrong direction. And the issue with that, maybe with Fran, you could argue it's his own character and his stubbornness and pride. I've heard people say that. Maybe they're right as to why he hasn't made more drastic moves to improve the defense over the years. I have an issue with the problem on offense for football being who the offensive coordinator is, right? And you know that I'm not alone in feeling
Right.
But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I have been critical of Fran's defenses, and if it takes a big step, I mean, if they end up 111 in KenPom's defensive efficiency rankings at the end of the year, then we're going to be having a different discussion. I think this team's better than that, and I would like to think that by the end of Big Ten play, that number will have went up, and I mean up in a good direction.
Yeah, and it's not that I want Fran to go. I'm just not a Fran fan. Do you understand? I mean,
I understand. And he's not lovey-dovey. He's not a guy. He's not warm and cuddly. I get that.
I went through the Tom Davis era, which I thought he needed to go because he wasn't, he couldn't take us to the next level. And after our previous coach that we had before Fran, when we weren't even competitive, I'm not here to really exit this coach. You understand? Because at least we're in every ball game. It's worth listening to. They are a team to watch.
But let's play devil's advocate.
But I'm not his fan.
I'll be on your side, though, for a second, Tom, here, because you're right. I don't want to hear people who say, well, it always could be worse because we could have Licklider. Well, I hate when people say that about the football program, right? We could go back to the Lauderberg years. Like, why are we talking? Or we could be Nebraska. I hear that all the we could be Nebraska. I think excelling and making greatness your goal is what both of these programs should be founded on. So when I have people say, hey, how many times have they been to the Sweet 16 since 99? Of course, the answer is 0. That's a valid complaint. I have no problem with that complaint because I say the same thing about football. When's the last time they won a Big Ten championship? 2004, and it was a shared title. So I understand. I'm not against you on this, Tom. And that
I got to look in the other day. When's the last time we won a Big Ten title? Not a tournament, a Big Ten title.
Basketball?
Yes.
Wasn't it like 1980 something?
78, 79 season.
Yeah. So
and I'm afraid that I'll never see that happen again. As these conferences get bigger, probably won't happen.
And I'll tell you this, they ain't going to win no conference. They're not going to win a regular season conference title with a defense that's 111th in the country. They're not going to.
No.
So you and I aren't that far apart. Hopefully I cleared up where I stand and why I stand where I stand. You're not the only person who's come to me and said, why do you rip on the football? There's no agenda here. I have a lot of respect for Kirk Ferentz. By the way, Kirk Ferentz is much more warm and cuddly than Fran McCaffery. He just is. He's more of a likable fixture, but I think both are really good people deep down inside. I think both have blind spots. And if Fran takes a big step back defensively this year, then there needs to be, you got to figure out where to turn. And they just made a couple coaching changes because Billy Taylor moved on. And of course, Eldridge was elevated. Gatens was brought in with Kirk Spiraw's retirement. So I don't know what you do, but I was hopeful with the athletes and with the improvement over these past 2 years, we'd see better defense. Tonight was bad. I mean, I didn't say this to Coach Close. The defense tonight was bad. And it's been like they won this game in spite of defense. There were moments where it was somewhat effective, but so many layups and so many dunks. So you're right about one thing, and that is the defense is still nowhere close to being Big Ten championship caliber. It's just not.
Well, we can't spot 20 points. We
Oh, more than
Penn
that.
State, we battled back the whole game, which I'm glad they did, but we just can't spot all them points.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Not very often it works out for you. But Corey, you do a great job. My wife and I watch you. We love Dawn, and we don't miss a show. So you do a great job.
Don and I appreciate that. And
I'm not here, pandering you or anything, but I don't miss a show. So it's tough, because you do stick up for Fran.
At times, but like I say, I hope that it's clear that I stick up for each coach when I feel that needs to happen, but I'm also critical of each coach when it needs to happen. So believe me, we're going to learn a lot over the next few weeks, because this team's still just 1-3. I mean, this basketball team is still just 1-3, and they got. I mean, Sunday's going to be tough. And a tough schedule ahead.
It really doesn't look real. I mean, I hope they come through, but it doesn't. It looks like an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle. Maybe not saying they can't win it, but it will be an uphill battle. And going into the rack on Sunday, that's a tall task.
Yeah. Well, thank you much, Corey.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you being here, sir. Always enjoy hearing from some new callers here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, some of our loyal listeners. So appreciate that from Tom and his wife. Thank you to both of them for being a part of this show. And I want to give a big shout out to Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. Certainly check out, let me get rid of the subscriber banner. Check out his great rates on insurance by calling him. He can give you a personalized quote to fit your needs, regardless of what type of insurance we're talking about. They've been in business since '99. They're part of the biggest auto insurance company in the USA. So certainly give Brad and his team a call, and they're supporting this show. And if you want to support the show, you call them and let them give you a quote to save you money. See, everybody wins. Win. 515-256-6480, or visit him online at www.bradvanmeter.com. Visit them in person at their State Farm office at 4229 Fleur Drive down in Des Moines. All right, folks, last call on the phone line, last call for the evening, and I'm going to hang it up. We'll have this show podcasted from the Hawkeye of the Storm on Spotify, Anchor, Google, etc. The phone number to call in is 515-635-1601. If you want to sponsor the show, the email's on the bottom ticker, from the eye of the storm at outlook.com. We got a lot of hoops still ahead, folks. So reach out to me if you've got a small business, or perhaps you're looking to start a small business. Whatever the case may be, great opportunity to build your brand by sponsoring Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close. And if I missed you in the chat, I apologize. Sunday, as everybody knows, big game. Iowa, Rutgers, the Hawkeyes trying to build a winning streak, right? When you're 0-3 in the Big Ten, not obviously not what you want. Kind of here to state the obvious, I guess. You better find a way to win on the road, right? They won at home. They did what they needed to do tonight against a very good Indiana team. But boy, one of the toughest places to play coming this Sunday for the Iowa Hawkeyes, in the rack against a very good Rutgers team, a team that makes it hard on teams that like to score a lot of points. They are a very good defensive team. So the Hawkeyes will have their hands full in an early game, 11 a.m. Central Time on BTN from Piscataway. Let's give you one more update on, or one more recap, I should say, on this evening. The Hawkeyes coming back from a 21-point deficit to defeat the Indiana Hoosiers 91-89. It's the third largest comeback in school history. They had a 23-point comeback. I've alluded to this game back in 2012 against Gardner-Webb back on November 17th. They had a 22-point comeback at Illinois. Tom Davis Coach Close game, 1987, January 14th, 1987. The Hawkeyes are now 2-0 against ranked opponents. The win against Iowa State, and certainly tonight's win against Indiana. Those will come in handy once we hit March, if this team is in consideration for a tournament spot. The Hawkeyes extended its win streak to 3 over the Hoosiers, dating back to last season. They've won 11 of the last 16 meetings against the Hoosiers in Iowa City. Chris Murray was named to the Wooden Award midseason top 25. He netted a team best 30 points, 10 boards for his 5th double-double of the season. He played all 40 minutes for the second straight game. Think about that. And now he's going right back to the East Coast. They played course, at State College on Sunday. He scored 30-plus points 4 times this season, including back-to-back games, has reached 20 points in 6 of 11 games played this season. Philip Rebracha tallied 19 points. He scored 15-plus points in 4 of Iowa's last 5 contests. He grabbed 10 boards to register his 5th double-double of the season and 24th of his career. The Hawkeyes snapping a 4-game losing streak dating back to December the 21st. After trailing by as many as 21 points in the first half, it was 28-7 early. Iowa took its first lead with 11:35 remaining in the second half. And, of course, today was also the 40th anniversary of the first Iowa men's basketball game played inside Carver back in 1983. Juniors Patrick McCaffery and Josue did not play in tonight's game for because of separate issues. The Hawkeyes will now play at Rutgers in Piscataway on Sunday morning. Let's look at the box score a little bit closer here. As we mentioned, Philip Rebracha, 19 points, 10 boards, 2 assists, just 1 turnover for Philip. Chris Murray played all 40 minutes, 1 a night for him, 30 points, 10 boards, and 4 fouls. Those 2 guys had a combined 9 fouls. The Hawkeyes, though, find a way to win. Just 2 turnovers combined for Iowa's 2 stars. Tony Perkins, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 turns this evening. Connor McCaffery, 16 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. Peyton Sandfort played 25 minutes, 11 points for Peyton, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover. And Peyton shot 1 of 4 from the 3-point arc. His struggles from behind the arc continue here 4 games into conference play. Josh Dix logged 10 minutes for the game, made his only field goal try. It was a 3, big 3 in that second half. Had 2 rebounds as well. Riley Mulvey spotted Iowa a little over a minute this evening. Aaron Eulis, with 10 minutes played, had 4 assists, 2 turnovers. Desante Bowen, he played approximately 10 minutes, had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 turnover. The Hawkeyes with 12 turnovers for the night. That did best Indiana, who had 14 turnovers for the evening. The Hawkeyes also out-rebounded the Hoosiers in the game. The total for rebounding, the Hawkeyes 37 boards to the Hoosiers 32. Somebody asked earlier about points in the paint. I have that stat for you. Very close. Indiana 48 to Iowa's 46. Very close in fast break points. Indiana 11 to Iowa's 10. Very close in bench points. Indiana 15 to Iowa's 16. Points from turnovers. Iowa much more opportunistic, and they got a few more turnovers out of the Hoosiers. 20-12, the Hawkeyes winning the points from turnovers battle as well. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. Of course, Iowa dropping 51 in that second half. They needed basically every one of those 51 points. 5 different lead changes in this game and 5 different ties in the game. Of course, the Hoosiers with their largest lead being 21, and the Hawkeyes at one point going on an 11-0 run. And that certainly helped spark the comeback, which ended with an Iowa win, 91-89. Announced attendance official from the university, 11,916. Not going to rip on fans. That's really sad. And I know it's a late game. It got pushed back. The tip time got pushed back a bit because of the previous Ohio State-Purdue game that was on FS1. But wow, students are just not coming to these games right now. Indiana shot 66% from the field in the first half, 71.4% from 3. But just 58% from the free throw line. They left some points on the board. In the second half, that shooting percentage overall dropped to 43%, 38% from 3. Still really good. Free throws, 71.4%. So for the game, Indiana still shot 54% from the field, 53 from 3, 65 from the free throw line, and lost. The Hawkeyes shooting 54% in the second half from the field, 44.4% from 3, 85% from the free throw line. And they needed all those percentages because the first half was somewhat rough. 43%. It was better because they bounced back second half of the first half. 43.2% from the field, 30% from 3, and made all 5 of their free throw attempts. And for the game, 47.7% from the field, 37% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line. Those are winning numbers. And with a little bit better defense, you don't dig yourself such a big hole early. All right, final caller of this evening. I promise to come back to you, Ryan. You're going to have the last word here during the postgame show. Ryan, what you got for us, sir?
Hey, Coach Woodson, I don't know if you heard, but the rumors are true. He said about 3 times that Fran crossing the court was BS and his arse should have been thrown out of the game. Sounded like a pretty sore loser, honestly.
I'm going to listen to that as soon as we're done here.
Oh, he was. I'm looking for the direct quote. 1 second. Oh, he was fired up though, and I didn't hear the comments from Connor, but of course, I read on Twitter that I don't do Twitter, but you can still Google names and see tweets.
Sure.
I saw Connor apparently had some pretty inflammatory things to say back. No idea what it was, but
that's surprising. Connor is kind of Fran's spokesman because Connor can speak and Fran cannot.
Exactly. My God, I like that guy. You know, if there was ever a good example of nepotism, and I don't even think it's nepotism because he's obviously a legit contributor. What a great guy! What a great player! And Woods, I think we got a new feud here with Indiana. I think they're still a little sore about losing last year in the Big Ten tournament, and you know, all I can say to my Hoosier friends, and I got a few, but living here, God, I have more Hoosiers. I know more Hoosiers than I do Illini, if you can believe it. And I live in the heart of Chicago. But anyway, it's embarrassing to admit I live in Chicago, to be honest with you.
You live downtown Chicago? Where do you live?
I used to. I'm in the west suburbs now.
Okay.
But yeah, I got way more Hoosier friends than people that I know, acquaintances and friends, than Illini. But that being said, I think he's just very hurt about last year still, and he was pretty fired up. Apparently, the assistant was yelling stuff at Fran, and Fran isn't going to put up with that and walked a few 2 steps too many. Now,
Ryan, I'll smile about it now.
Mike Woodson said that Fran got teed up and then it got pulled back, and that was BS. And he said that Fran should have been thrown out of the DAMN game. So he's definitely a potty mouth. No question about it. Little whiny potty mouth. You know what? I think we should do a GoFundMe, and Hawkeye fans should send some diapers down to the athletic department. Attention, Mike Woodson. Some little diapers, maybe a binky or two. Man, God, that guy was a baby.
Let me get this straight. You don't like Nebraska. You don't like Brett Bielema in Illinois.
I like Brett Bielema. I'm praying for Brett Bielema because after what happened to Coach Leach, I mean, I do not want that to happen to Brett Bielema.
Why would that happen to Brett Bielema?
He's a little.
Well, hold on a second. If you're gonna
he could lose a few. I'm working on it, but he could lose a few too.
Coach Leach was not that overweight, I don't believe.
Exactly, and
so I mean, sometimes
that one sucked because he was a joy to listen to. But
and Brett Bielema is
I don't actually hate Nebraska that much. My boss is a Nebraska fan, and my boss is a great guy, and he kind of roots for Iowa if we're not playing Nebraska, believe it or not. Now Wisconsin, sorry, Coach Close. I just despise him with all my fiber of my being. And I'm not a big fan of Ames College either, but that's another story. I pray for you every day having to live in the backyard of Ames College.
Again, for the record, this is not my home here, right? We're visiting some friends. I did not no, I took the poster down.
Oh, I didn't even notice the poster.
Well, I was getting people. I had somebody on. Now, maybe there was some sarcasm in the cynicism, but I had somebody respond to a YouTube post basically saying, well, I was going to subscribe to you, but now I'm not so sure because I see that Iowa State poster in the background.
No,
And I had people say, well, I've always wondered if maybe you were a closet clone. Anybody who knows me.
I trust you, Corey. Do you have children by chance?
I do not.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. In 4, 5, 6 years, when Corey Jr. is in daycare playing 3-on-3 Nerf basketball with a 3-foot hoop, that Courtney Green is not qualified to referee that matchup.
No, just so you're aware, I have done some officiating in my past. Not
I know. I saw the shirt. It was glorious. It was glorious.
I just don't understand how you can. I understand missing calls in the moment, but to huddle up and then miss that call, ridiculous. But anyways,
Anyway, hey man, good night. Thanks again, and yeah, Mike Woodson was not real gracious tonight, but that's fine. Hopefully, we get him. We get him every chance we get.
Absolutely, Ryan. Appreciate you calling in as always.
Thanks,
sir.
man.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody, please subscribe if you haven't done so, and definitely give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at From the Hawkeye on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram profile is brand new. Like the page, follow the page on Facebook, From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Please share the stream out on social media. There's a little share button on YouTube where you can copy paste the URL. Please do that. Whatever social media platforms you use, that does help the channel here From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Keep in mind, I'm not trying to get sympathy or empathy. I don't need that, but I want everybody to realize that we're finishing up a very busy football season, and there's still news out there, but we don't have the Iowa postgame show. Please just keep this in mind. Please keep in mind that this show is funded not only by our sponsors, but by donations. Just please remember that, because you stay busy in football season and things kind of take care of themselves to an extent as it relates to support to make this show profitable, make it worth doing what I'm doing, which I love doing, but it has to be able to create some sort of funding. I think you know what I'm getting at here. So please just consider to donate. All right. And tell your friends about it and remind your friends that watch the channel. Please consider donating. We've got PayPal, Venmo, Cash App linked to our description. In our description, you can donate by credit card by clicking on the PayPal link. Reach out to me. You can also, people have sent text messages to this. I don't necessarily promote that, but our call-in line, 515-635-1601. You can also text that line, and if you've got any questions about how to support the show, reach out to me by means of the call-in line. Become a premium subscriber. Click the join button next to From the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube. You can also shop Amazon with us. We got a Amazon link in our description. You can support the show. A small proceed of your Amazon purchases goes to us when you use that link to prompt your purchase. Thank you to the Johnny O Show for helping to jumpstart a lot of these projects within projects, if you will. Certainly check out his stuff on YouTube. From the Hawkeye of the Storm, merch is here, including What's the Upside? One of our designs. We've got more designs coming. From the Hawkeye of the Storm, hats, shirts, mugs, whatever you got, whatever you need, check it out. Merch, click the description click on the link in the description below for more information. This show, as well as excuse me, it's getting late, as well as all of our live shows, our longer shows, including our podcasts, are podcasted on demand via Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google, Amazon, and more. Type in From the Hawkeye of the Storm and find our podcast. Chad says, how do you become a paid subscriber, Corey? I have an iPhone. Good question. The join button often is gone when you're on iPhone for some reason. So, Chad, you may have to sign into your YouTube on your desktop, or at least go to the browser version on your iPhone. You should be able to find it there. But yeah, the join button is for some reason missing on Apple. So that's how you'd have to do it is go to a computer and sign in under your YouTube account, and then find the channel and click the join button. All right, folks, for one more reminder, I'll be back with you on Sunday. Content all the time, right? But Sunday, we'll announce a time for the postgame show. It may not be right after the game on Sunday, but we'll have postgame coverage. Iowa Rutgers, Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Central Time on BTN from Piscataway, New Jersey at the Rack. The Hawkeyes looking to move to 2-3 in the conference. Iowa winning this evening over the Indiana Hoosiers, 91-89. We'll talk to you Sunday. Corey Bratta for Corey Bratta, myself, and Coach Gary Close here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Thank you for staying up late with us this evening, folks, and we'll talk to you soon.